number 3, everyone, how to host a technical panel practice. My name is Beth Crane, and I'm going to be your host today. On today's session, you'll see a process that you're all very familiar with, the technical panel process. However, you're going to see it in a virtual setting. The Virtual Events Toolkit, which you can find on the ISU website, is divided into different sections. And you can take these various sections in the toolkit and combine them together to create different kind of virtual events. In the first webinar that we had, we discussed meetings. And meetings is the basis of nearly all the virtual type events that you'll see in the toolkit. And today what we're going to do is we're looking at the virtual data input and video operator guidelines. If you combine the section on meetings with the section on virtual data input and video operator, then you can create a technical panel practice. So today we have here with us Chris Stokes, who's going through the process of setting up and running a technical panel practice session. And Chris is an ISU data replay operator. And in Canada, he's a singles, pairs, and synchronized technical specialist. Chris has participated in many virtual events this year in both roles. He developed this section of the toolkit, and today he's here to give us an overview of this process. So over to you, Chris.
Thanks, Beth. So good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on what time zone you're watching from. My name is Chris Stokes, and welcome to webinar number 3 of the webinar series for the ISU Virtual Events Toolkit. Today, we'll be going through the procedures and guidelines for you to run your own virtual technical panel practice session using pre-recorded videos. The session will run for about an hour, and the overview for this session is as follows. So we'll cover the purpose of this session, things that you need to do before the session, how many people you'll need for your sessions, their roles, setting up your system, technical panel practice sheets, and sharing of documents and videos. Procedures and guidelines for the day of the session, during the program, the review process, and what to do if something goes wrong. And we'll also cover what other ways we can use these procedures. So the purpose of this session is to organize a virtual technical panel practice session using pre-recorded videos, 2.0. So since COVID basically kicked us out of all our rinks, I've taken part in a lot of virtual events and virtual technical panel practice sessions. The instructions in the toolkit right now are the first versions that were developed based on those first few months of testing virtual events. So what I'm presenting today has developed, streamlined, and refined since those first sessions. With these new procedures, we're trying to make our practice sessions as close to being on a real panel from the comfort of your own home. That is why I'm calling this Virtual Tech Panel Practice 2.0. We're going to cover how to set up your system, various ways to set up your systems, how you can share your documents and your videos, the roles and responsibilities of all individuals involved, entering elements onto an online technical panel practice sheet, and what other training opportunities you can use these procedures for. So, Netiquette, or the do's and don'ts of online learning. Please keep your cameras and microphones off. I'm very happy to say that there are a lot of people taking part in this webinar. I will be using this PowerPoint and will be presenting a couple of videos, so we want to make sure that we don't crash this Zoom meeting. If you have any questions during the webinar, please post them in the chat box. I will be stopping to check for questions at certain points during the webinar, and there will also be a Q&A at the end of the session. We're going to start with an example of a synchronized skating technical panel practice session. This will be a junior free program. There are video examples of a singles and a pairs technical panel practice session in the Virtual Events Toolkit right now under section number 2, Tech Panel Practice Sessions on the ISU e-learning website. This panel is an excellent example of how to be efficient in a virtual setting. From the discussion before the program, assigning of tasks and expectations of the participants, The TS will call the elements and you will see how they handle reviews. Please focus on the process and not the calls. Also, please save your questions until later as I'll be covering how to run your own session. If you still have questions after that, I can answer them as we go along. Elena will share the Vimeo link to the video in the chat box, and Beth will be sharing her screen to play the video. So you can either watch on your own or through this Zoom meeting. Take it away, Beth.
Hi, everyone. Hello, Liana, Roberta, Chris. Can you hear me correctly?
Yep.
Hello. Yes.
Perfect. Uliana, can I ask you to call the false and if possible to say that if they are inside or outside the element? Can I ask you what you want us to do? Our job?
So we will have 8 elements. For the pivoting block, can you, Philippe, please check if it will be enough degrees before and after the change of pivoting point? I will check all the turns. For the angled intersection, Roberta, can you please take the left line and follow it for PI problems? I will take the right line. For the whip intersection, we can switch also, Roberta, the lines. You can take the left line or the faraway line and to check the curve. And I will take right and close to us line. And for the move element, I will take care about 8 skaters and the positions of the free skating move. Can you, Philippe, please check spread eagles? And Roberta, can you take care about the another FM, if it will be?
Okay, sure. Sounds good.
The video is shared in the chat box. And I've shared the practice sheet.
Okay. Juliana, can I ask you if you don't take a feature to say it? And Roberta, if there are some long transition, please call also the transition. That helps the judges. If you call for a review, please say the reason. Just say no rocker, no counter, no diagonal, something like that. And please just call what you see on the video. No hunting. Mistake has to be obvious and be consistent from the first team to the last one. Do you have any question?
No.
No. Okay, so we are ready. Have fun. Enjoy, everyone. And do you have the video? Yes, everyone?
Yes.
So 3, 2, 1, play.
First element, traveling circle.
Traveling circle. Traveling circle level 2.
Next, transition and then synchronized spin element.
Synchronized spin element. Synchronized spin element level 2. Review for degrees of leg extension.
Next, pivoting block.
Pivoting block. Intersection. No curves. Forward pushes. Intersection 2, PI 2.
Eight elements, 3 reviews, starting with
Okay,
element number
Juliana,
2,
you
synchronized
call a
spin level
review
2 is the call.
for the free leg extended at 45 degrees.
Yes, I wanted to check if the lag was enough for the feature.
Okay, you can
44
check
seconds.
that. Are you ready?
Yes.
Yes.
3, 2, 1, play. Yeah, correct. There is more than 4 skaters for sure.
Yes, I agree. Call stays.
Okay, the call stays. We go to the, sorry, we go to the next
Call stands.
intersection. Roberta, you called for a review for pushing
Yes.
forward.
I had more than 4 skaters with forward pushes during the PI.
Okay, can we check it, please?
149.
Okay, are you ready?
Yes.
Yes.
3, 2, 1, play. Yeah, I can agree.
Yes, I have more than 4 skaters looking to the left side. And then I also actually saw some skaters executing the PI on the spot, but maybe less than 4 skaters.
Oh, so you're not sure, and you didn't call for that, so we can't enter, so we are not going to look at that. So we're just going to reduce the PI by 1 level. So intersection 3, PI 1.
Agree.
Perfect. And now we go
Element
to the
change.
last review, the no hold element, element number 7. I called a review for the diagonal feature. For me, the rocker bracket counter are flat. Roberta, what is your review also?
Yeah, I had the review for the same reason. I only counted the twizzle, so
Okay.
I didn't count the diagonal feature.
Okay, so we agree on that, so we don't need to review it. And the call will be no hold 2, step 2. We don't take the diagonal and also the series on 1 foot. Perfect. Thank you. You can read the list, please.
Element changed. Traveling circle 2, synchronized spin 2, pivot block 1, artistic wheel 2, I3 PI1, moves element 3 FM2, no hold 2 step 2, I2 PI2, no falls, no other deductions.
Perfect. You can authorize. Thank you.
Elements authorized. So for this session, I'll be assuming that you already know how to organize a Zoom meeting, manage breakout rooms, and set up polls. If you have no idea how to do any of that, please check out section number 1 of the ISU Virtual Events Toolkit on the ISU e-learning website. You can also check out webinar number 2, Digital Success Strategies for Skating, for great advice, more in-depth details about things to remember before any meetings. It is posted on the ISU YouTube Development Projects channel. So who do we need for our sessions? So first of all, we're going to need a host. So the host is the person that's going to set up the Zoom meeting, send out the invites. They will choose the videos, organize the tech panel practice sheets. Okay, this role could be covered by one of the members of the technical panel. You will need a technical panel, a controller, a technical specialist, and an assistant technical specialist. You will also need a data input operator. Now remember, it's not necessary for this person to be an ISU data replay operator. This person just needs to know the codes for the elements in that discipline. So if the DIO is working with an ice dance tech panel, they will need to know how to write blues 1, level 1, yes, no, timing no, fall by 1 in the element on the sheet. For the element timer, this role may be covered by the DIO, the TC, or the ATS, or it could be could be another individual for the panel. We came about this role of having an element timer. We did a practice session a few weeks ago, and I tried to do everything at the same time. So your element timer is the one that's going to input the time of the start time of the elements into the sheet. So for the person to put the codes, to do the codes after the control, the TS is called the element, and to put the times onto the sheets as well, it's a little bit too much for one person to do. If you have a chance to prepare the tech panel practice sheets in advance and you already have the element times on them, you do not need to have an element timer. The most important thing to remember for setting up your sessions is to try to prepare as much as possible in advance. You need to address the roles of all the individuals in the meeting, the roles for your TC, your TS, and ATS. Will they rotate? If there's only one person qualified as a TC, that person is going to be a TC for the entire event. Will your TS and ATS switch roles? Is your DIO going to be the DIO for the entire session? If the tech panel practice sheets have been prepared beforehand with the video links, the DIO could take some time to add the element times to the sheets before the meeting. Then you will not need an element timer. The more prepared you are, the more successful your practice session will be. Before the session, you need to please make sure that you have the most recent versions of Zoom, Google Chrome, and Word or Pages or the equivalent for your DIO. Remember, Zoom updates constantly, so it's important to check for updates regularly, as you may not have access to certain functions if you're not up to date. So we actually did a rehearsal of this yesterday, and it reminded me to check for updates on Zoom, and guess what? There was one. Through all our sessions leading up to this, we found that Google Chrome is the most stable when it comes to opening and watching videos through any platform. For the technical panel practice sheet, we're using a Word document as the DIO input screen. You need to make sure that if you are in the role of the DIO, that you have access to Microsoft Word, Apple Pages, or any equivalent that will allow you to add and edit into this document. Now, setting up your system. There's 3 options to set up your system, and you need to choose the best one that will work for you. The first option is if you have a laptop or a computer with a connected monitor that serves as an extended screen. So as you can see, I have the Zoom call on the laptop, and on the extended monitor is Google Chrome, which is showing the skaters video. The second option is if you have a laptop or computer and a tablet. So the Zoom meeting is showing on the laptop, and I have the skaters video showing on my iPad. This is not recommended if the video links are being shared via the Zoom chat box. If you have access to the videos to play on your tablet, you're going to need to know how to access slow motion in case you need those for reviews. The third option is setting up your system is to use, if you only have the one device, is to use a split screen. If you're using a split screen, you must be able to see both the Zoom call for the shared tech panel practice sheet and the browser for the skater video. This does require practice beforehand. I found it better that if you've downloaded Zoom as an app, instead of using it in a browser, it makes it a little bit easier. So if you're using a browser to watch the Zoom call, it will make it difficult to see the Zoom meeting and to be able to watch the video on another tab. When someone shares a screen, don't be surprised if it takes over your whole screen. Zoom by default will go to full screen when someone shares unless you've changed these settings on your own. Try to have your screen set up in advance so that you can see both the Zoom shared screen and the video. Beth, I believe you have a story that shows what can happen if you don't keep track of your tabs.
Yes, I thought I was really well prepared for an event. I had my scoring set up on my computer. I had all my videos ready to go, lined up. I had my Zoom call that I could see, but I had everything in the same tab instead of windows. Different windows. So when I clicked on the video flew from my external monitor and covered up my scoring system, so I couldn't enter any marks. So I then had to just watch the skating and score on my paper, and then after enter my marks, which is not something I normally do. So that was the lesson I learned that day. You need to make sure you know what the difference is between a tab and a window and open things correctly, probably on separate windows. So yes, thanks.
Thanks for that, Beth. So the technical panel practice sheets These are Word documents where information may be input beforehand or may be added to the sheet. To keep organized, the top of this sheet may be used to track the skater's information, the discipline, the category, and the segment. There's also a space for the event and a link to the video. There's a sheet for the DIO, and there's also a sheet for the technical panel with space to write notes during the program. I'm going to ask Elena to post blank copies of these sheets in the chat box. These sheets are downloadable for those of you joining in Zoom and in YouTube, and will also be available in the toolkit once the new information has been uploaded. Preparation. So if you plan on having several sessions or need these for other training opportunities, save the sheets on your computer for easy access for future sessions. Have a folder for singles and a subfolder for junior or senior, and then a subfolder for ladies and men, and then a subfolder for shorter free programs. Keep yourself organized. This could make organizing your next session so much easier. If you're going to have the links to the video on the sheets, please make sure that wherever the videos have been posted, that the links are going to be active for the next time that you're going to use these programs. Sharing of documents and videos. There's a whole bunch of ways that we've come across to set up for sharing of your videos. So we can use Dropbox, we can use iCloud, Vimeo, you can watch videos on YouTube links. Cosme is also another option. Sharing the links for the sheets and the video links can be done through the chat box. You can email the links to your participants. You can set up an Excel spreadsheet that has all the links on one nice sheet for the entire event that you're going to do. You can share them on a Google Drive. So how are we doing so far? Are there any questions, Beth?
So I'm going to check with Elena or Sally to see if you have any questions that have come up in chat or on YouTube.
No questions so far.
Okay, perfect. Let's keep going. So now let's go through the expectation of all the members of your technical panel. Starting with the technical panel, your controller, your TS, and your ATS. It's very important to check that all your links work before the day of your session. That includes your Zoom meeting link. It's very easy to check the Zoom meeting link if you just click on it to see that you've got the right one. It'll tell you if the meeting is scheduled, and it'll tell you the time. It also helps to make sure that you have the correct time zone if you're lucky to be working with a multinational group for your session. Tech panel practice sheets. If your sheets have been filled in beforehand, then make sure that you've printed out copies for yourself. Otherwise, if you don't have it done beforehand, then make sure that you have a set of blank practice sheets for you to work with. Practice playing the videos and using slow motion. So depending on how the videos have been shared, you will need to know how to scroll to a specific time in the video, and you will also need to know how to access the controls to play the video in slow motion if required during the review process. So if you're sharing your videos via Dropbox, to access the slow motion, so you need to put your cursor on the screen, right-click on the screen to show controls option. In the bottom right-hand corner, you'll see a little gear, and that will allow you to access the speed controls for slow motion. If videos are being shared via Vimeo, it's the same thing. So you have the settings icon, the gear in the bottom right-hand corner, to access speed controls for slow motion. Also, if you're sharing videos or if you're watching videos via YouTube, they also have the option for slow motion. You access it by the gear in the bottom right-hand corner, and that will allow you to change the speed during the reviews. If you're lucky to have the videos, access to the videos prior to your event, you can download the videos and you can use whatever player you're most comfortable with. VLC Media Player, QuickTime, Windows Media Player. It's very important that when you have downloaded your videos that you have them organized in a folder that will be easy for you to access them on the day of your session. Save them by the name of the skater or by the skating order so that you can get to them quickly. Now, your data input operator. They also need to make sure that all the links are working before the day. If the tech panel practice sheets have been filled in beforehand with the elements, make sure that you save them to a folder that will be easy to access on the day of the meeting. Save the sheets either by skater name or skater order to stay organized on the day. If you have access to the video links and element times have not been noted on the sheets, prepare these in advance of the session and you will not need to have an element timer. Practice playing videos and using slow motion. It's not a requirement as a DIO, but it's good to know. Know how to share your screen in a Zoom meeting and know the codes. Remember, you don't need to be an ISU DRO. You just need to know the codes. For your element timer, same thing. Make sure all the links are working before the day. Print your tech panel practice sheets or have a scrap piece of paper to keep track of the element times. Know how to annotate on a shared screen. We will be covering annotate a little bit later. And you need to practice playing the videos and marking element start times using either the video scroll bar, a stopwatch, or the Timer Plus app. So the video scroll bar, however, it's important to remember that if you are watching your video on one screen and you have the sheet in front of you on another screen, when you move your cursor away from the video, the scroll bar will disappear. So if you've got the time of the element on the one screen and you move your mouse over to the other screen to input your text box with the time, the scroll bar is going to disappear, the time is going to disappear, you may lose an element. That's why we've come up with the Timer Plus with a Stopwatch app. Okay, this app is free for Apple and Android users. I'm going to ask Elena to post the links to download these apps in the chat box. I like this app because of the stopwatch and the lap features. So on a regular cell phone, if you're using the timer, when you start a new lap, it only gives you the length of time of the lap, not the time the lap started. With Timer Plus, the app gives you the start time every time you start a new lap. So if you're using a piece of paper or the tech panel practice sheet to write down the times, sometimes elements are back to back and you haven't had enough time to transfer the time to your sheet, let alone add them to the tech panel practice sheet in the Zoom meeting. This app helps by keeping track of the time every time you tap for the beginning of a new element. I kind of equate this to using the ISU cutter. So when you tap the space bar to tag the beginning of the element. Then you tap again to end the element. Using this app, you only need to tap the start of each new element. Unfortunately, there's no undo, so you do need to be careful. So with the Timer Plus app, you can see in the top right-hand corner, you have the stopwatch feature. In the bottom right-hand corner is where you tag for the laps. So every time you tag for a new lap, that will show you the time of the beginning time of the tag, and that will be the beginning time of the element. So those are the times that you're going to transfer to the tech panel practice sheet. So the nice thing with this is if you get behind on the sheet, keep tagging the elements, and then you can transfer them to the sheet during the longer elements, during a spin, during a step sequence, during a lift, during a traveling circle, whatever. Are we still doing okay? Many questions?
Chris, this is Beth. I was just thinking about when you were talking about naming the skaters, I was thinking one of the practices that we've done for the events is just call them like Skater A or Skater 1 rather than their name, because we're really trying to focus on the process, not necessarily who the skater is. The other thing I was thinking of was we talked about the videos, and if possible, if you can have access to videos either domestically or your videos that you've gotten from different events, try not to use the videos that have the levels or the GOE in the top of the box. So just kind of plain videos. That seems obvious, but I know that came up at least at one session we had. So maybe does Elena or Sally see any questions?
No questions so far.
All right, good.
Excellent. Let's carry on. So now we're going to put all the pieces together and talk about what happens on the day. So on the day of the session, before joining the Zoom session, make sure that you're closing any unnecessary programs on your computer or laptop that could be using bandwidth. You need to have a stable connection, so check what other devices, iPads, smart devices, gaming devices, are connected, as they may affect the quality of the video that you'll be watching. Xbox, Netflix, Google Home, things like that. Try not to have your email open in the background, as this can also affect being in sync with the rest of the panel. Make sure you check that you have fresh batteries in your mouse and that all cables, including your power cables, are secure. We've all done a lot of Zoom meetings, so make sure that you check if you're used to using a Zoom background, make sure your Zoom background is appropriate. If you're not using a background, make sure you're aware of who or what is behind you in your camera. Make sure it's appropriate. It could be distracting for the other people on the panel. If you have pets or small children, maybe try to keep them away from your meeting. They could interrupt you in the middle of a call. The DIO prior to each skater. So the host must make sure that they've given permission to share at the beginning of the Zoom meeting. The DIO is going to open the appropriate tech panel practice sheet for the skater from their downloaded folder. They share their screen, and if they're using pre-filled tech panel practice sheets, just confirm the name of the skater or the skater number with the controller. For the element timer, after the screen has been shared, they will open the annotate toolbar. Remember, the annotate toolbar is only going to show after the screen has been shared. It shows at the top of the screen. This option is not available if you are the one that is sharing the screen. I'm going to ask Elena to annotate so you can all see what it looks like on your screen. So as you can see, everyone can see what Elena has written on the screen. This will stay there until the screen is no longer shared or until Elena undoes what she wrote. Hi, Elena. And please don't forget to undo what you wrote, otherwise it's going to stay there for the rest of our presentation. It's important to remember that the host must also allow the option for others to annotate when they set up the Zoom meeting. Practice makes perfect when it comes to opening text boxes, but this is one thing that you cannot practice on your own. So you need to click on the text box option, move your cursor to the spot you want to add the text box, and type in the time. I've found that using a period instead of a colon is so much quicker when you're putting down the time, so you don't have to use the shift key. Try to remember where you put your cursor on the previous text box and move your way down the sheet. You can see what this looks like. There's an example in the toolkit of pairs tech panel practice where I was annotating on the video that Beth had been sharing. You can see that when you annotate element by element, instead you can either use one full text box to annotate a list of elements, or we used individual ones. So you can see that sometimes using individual ones, it doesn't line up very pretty, but it gets the job done. During the program, so the DIO will share the video link in the Zoom chat box. Even if you've been sent the video links beforehand, it's good practice for the DIO to share the video link. Just makes it easier for access for everyone else in the panel. Unless you're using headphones, please remember to mute your video. So once everyone has their video open, the TC will count down to start the video. 3, 2, 1, play. You could see that in the example that we did, how Philippe counted down the panel to start the video at the same time. The DIO will enter elements onto a shared tech panel practice sheet as they're called by the TS, including falls and reviews. The element timer will input element times onto the sheet using annotate and text boxes. And when the skater is finished, the DIO will inform the panel of the number of elements and reviews, and then the TC takes over. During the review process, the technical panel will follow the review process as if they were at a live event. Remember to be considerate. On a Zoom call, if 2 people are trying to talk at the same time, you can't hear anybody. So let the person finish their thought and then before you try and jump in. So for each review, the DIO will inform the panel of the start time. The panel will scroll to the beginning of the element. The TC will confirm what the panel is reviewing and at what speed the element should be played. The TC may use 3, 2, 1 play for reviews, but the panel may not always be in sync with their videos. The tech panel will review the element, and the TC will inform the DIO if there's any change. Beth, as a controller, how does the virtual process for reviews differ from that at a live event?
Well, I found it really quite similar. I know it's gone through an evolution since the start, but now I think it's pretty similar to a live event. One thing I did find was we were at doing an event, and in this one event, we had 48 skaters. And so after a while, what I felt happened was we had these kind of awkward silences when we were doing the review process on our own by ourselves, because we couldn't really see the other person, all their body language. And so if someone was having trouble like with their video, or they lost, the video vanished somehow, it was really helpful if we didn't have an awkward silence, but rather someone said, well, just a second, I need to play the video again. Just a second, it's buffering. So we got some sort of dialogue, so we knew what was happening. So that was the main difference I found, just a little bit more conversation going on, especially during the review process. One other thing that someone mentioned was it was helpful when they were making their decision, like they said, okay, take off towards the E in exhibition, on the board. So we could hear a few details of what they were thinking during the review process. So maybe a little bit more talking. I know we don't talk that much, but sometimes just a few of those things helped, especially during the review.
Yeah. Thanks. I've also found that on some reviews that if for whoever called the review, some of the controllers I've worked with have said, talk your way through the element. So like if you're reviewing a change foot combination spin, whoever's called the review will go through and they'll talk through the spin. Camel, yes. Camel side short for revs. Sit forward, yes. Change of foot, like talk their way through so everyone kind of knows where that one person is standing, and whether they agree or disagree, that'll make the review process go a little bit faster. At the end of the review process, so the DIO will read back the elements and the number of falls. The TC will confirm the correct elements, and the TC to authorize the elements, just like we do on a live panel. So what to do if we have problems? So if your video is buffering, now you know that swirling circle of doom, your video is choppy, or your video stops. So all you need to do is just inform the panel that you're having issues with your video. The TC will advise the panel where to restart the video. Beth, I believe you've had a first-hand experience with the circle of doom. Would you like to share?
Yes, it seems like I've had every possible maybe thing go wrong. Yes, so I've had lots of experience over the year. So I was on the technical panel, and it was actually the very first skater, and we were going to review, and I kept getting the circle of doom going around and around, and I couldn't see the skater. Technical specialist and the assistant technical specialist could see everything very, very clearly. Went on to review the next one, same thing, circle of doom was happening. And then someone piped up and said, what browser are you using? And they said, well, maybe you could try a different browser. Why don't you try Chrome? I switched to Chrome, and for the next 35 skaters, the review process went very smoothly, as did the review. So I realized that I need to choose the browser that works best for me. And I suggest that to everyone as well. Try it out, find out what works, and then use that one each time.
Excellent. Thanks, Beth. So what happens if you get disconnected from the Zoom call? So obviously try to reconnect to the meeting. If it's not possible, send a text or try to phone someone in the meeting. It'd be a good idea for the organizer when they're setting up the Zoom meeting that they share their contact details just in case something like this happens. So that's basically how you set up your own virtual tech panel practice session. We're going to watch the same video that we watched at the beginning of the webinar, but this time it's going to highlight the most important point to remember. This video only has sound in a few places, so don't panic because you're not going to hear all those people talking. Elena, I'm going to ask you to post the Vimeo link in the chat box, and Beth is going to share the video for us.
Three, two, one, play.
Eight elements, 3 of you, starting with element number 2. Synchronized spin level 2 is the call. 44 seconds.
Are you ready?
Yes.
Yes.
3, 2, 1, play.
Element changed.
Thank you. You can read the list, please.
Traveling circle 2, synchronized spin 2, pivot block 1, artistic wheel 2, I3 PI1, moves element 3 FM2, no hold 2 step 2, I2 PI2, no falls, no other deductions.
Perfect. You can authorize. Thank you.
Elements authorized. Both of these videos will be posted in the virtual events toolkit once I've updated all of the information from this presentation to post in the toolkit. And Beth, I believe we have a special guest joining us today.
Yeah, we have a few special guests today. So first of all, we have Yuliana Chirkova, and Yuliana is a member of the Synchro Technical Committee for the ISU, and you saw her participating in the demonstration panel. So I know that in talking with some of the people on the Synchro committee, they were discussing different ways that they might be able to use this technical panel practice going forward. So Yuliana, thanks for joining us. And do you have some suggestions or ideas about how you might use these different practice sessions?
Yes, for sure. First of all, hello to everyone. We have a few ideas. In future, these sessions can be used for several purposes. First of all, to assist in preparation before Frankfurt seminar and exams. Secondly, as good practice prior to the first competitions of the season or any competition. Also, sessions can be used to improve skills and stay connected anytime during the off-season. Or it can be used just as a small refresher practice in the beginning of the season. So we thought that it can be very useful in future.
Great, thanks very much for sharing those ideas with us.
You're welcome.
Great, and we have another guest with us now, and this guest is Cecilia Eschinoca, and she's joining us from Argentina. And Cecilia came to one of our technical panel practice sessions that we had last year. So we organized some technical panel practice sessions, and then we ended up inviting guests to come and join us. And during one session, we invited some new technical panel members from South America to join us. And Cecilia was one of the technical panel members that came to join us. So we thought it would be interesting for Cecilia to share a little of her experience coming and joining us on one of those sessions. So Cecilia, if you could join us now and share a little bit.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. So I just wanted to say it was a really valuable experience being invited to be part of a virtual event practicing for tech specialists. The new adjustments we needed to incorporate to our lives and ways of learning have led to brand new opportunities across the world, and this is one of them for sure. Getting to code a program live and be supervised by tech specialists, and technical controllers was really helpful for me. After my turn, we went to a breakout room and I received some comments on my performance, which really helped me understand what I needed to improve for my future. They were also kind and encouraged us to make some mistakes because that's part of the learning process. And also another important thing I wanted to comment is the opportunity of being able to witness how they worked in a live situation, because that's something I wouldn't have been able to see if I was here in Argentina. So I'm really grateful for the opportunity and hope we continue to do these kind of meetings to stay connected and get more knowledge of tech specialists and more prepared. So thank you so much.
Thanks, Cecilia. It was great to have you, and hopefully we can organize some other events, technical panel practice sessions in the future. So thank you.
Thank you, ladies. So remember, it all started from a simple Zoom meeting to discuss elements. Then we started adding video examples and it turned into a seminar. Then we developed procedures to make it feel like calling programs at a live event. I'm very excited to hear ways that you guys will use these guidelines to develop your own kind of sessions. So other ways that we can use this, so technical panel practice sessions, Cecilia mentioned the addition of breakout rooms. So breakout rooms can allow for more panels to practice. It can allow you to get individual feedback. You can return back to the main room for discussion. The possibilities are endless. For a technical panel seminar, using video examples, breakout rooms, you can add Zoom polls. Polls can be used to allow the entire group to answer questions. What level do you give this change for combination spin? Results can help you decide what direction you need to go with your seminar. Everyone called it as a level 1, and it should be a level 4. You know what area you need to focus on for your seminar. DIO Training Sessions. So now, instead of using the tech panel practice sheet, here are 2 more examples of what else you can use as input screens. This would be a great opportunity to train DIOs. If you have access to the ISU expert, this would be a great practice, not just for the tech panel, but also for your DIO. Zoom whiteboard option can also allow for several participants to annotate on the screen. Each person can use a part of the screen to annotate using their own text box. You can see more about annotating on the screen in the Virtual Events Toolkit under Section 2 of the Tech Panel Practice Session. I'm sure there are many more ways that you can build and use what we've learned today. Cosme is another option for playing videos. Cosme is a video sharing platform where everyone is able to watch a video at the same time. It gives you the ability to share files from different sources. You can share files from a URL using YouTube, Dropbox, or Vimeo links. The only problem with sharing videos that way is you don't have access to slow motion. You can share options from the files on your computer. Unfortunately, the resolution is usually very bad for the other participants. You know, when the video is jerky, the video pauses, the clarity is not quite there. The best option I found with Cosme is by screen sharing. So whoever's hosting the Cosme will open the link, whether it's a YouTube video, Vimeo, or Dropbox link, and they will share their screen. The host will also have access to slow motion. With that, you'll need to check that you've enabled the relay server and you use a lower resolution when you're sharing this. This is the ability to have a VRO who will be responsible for opening, sharing the videos, and then playback for the reviews. Beth, back to you.
Okay. Yes. Well, definitely preparation is something that Sandra Williamson Ledley emphasized in webinar number 1. So today we thought we would put together that tip that she gave us and how preparation is so important in preparation for the technical panel sessions that you might be having. And who better to discuss and share her experiences with us than Sally Rahoric. And as many of you may know that Sally Rahoric was a university professor and did many online training sessions. And she combined that with her experience and expertise as a figure skating official to create some online courses. And I thought it was only like 5 years ago, and Sally corrected me and said, no, actually it was 10 years ago. So I invite Sally to join us now and tell us how that online session came about 10 years ago, and also a little bit about preparation for tech panel sessions. So Sally, if you could join us now.
Thanks very much, Beth. Gosh, already 10 years ago, unbelievable. But what that was an online course, 4 months long, like a university course for pair judges in British Columbia, which is where I live. And of course, that's all the west of Canada. And yes, Canada has a lot of pairs, it's very true, but we don't have pairs in every region. So typically those pairs are training in Quebec or Ontario or in isolated places. But judges here in British Columbia didn't have opportunities to see them and to become pair judges. So it was stretched over 4 months, as I said. It was online course, and we used Facebook, a private Facebook page with videos on Dropbox, and it worked very well. We used some synchronous with everybody together online and some asynchronous where you did things on your own. Worked very well. But fast forward to today, I mean, really, the sophisticated tools and the online methods like we saw today with Chris's presentation. Chris, so much of what you showed us today for setting up tech panel practices rests on a main point. You said it, preparation ahead of time is key, which means thinking ahead for what the moderators need to do to be prepared for their own role. Logistics of the forums, video selections themselves, element timing, either beforehand, as you said, or even during the event, computer setup, connections, communication with other panel members, and yes, making sure that my setup doesn't allow my cat to walk across in front of me and on my desk. But one of the main learnings that we've had in building the toolkit is that the teamwork that develops in preparing and executing an event is key for success. You don't have one overall boss. You all pitch in. You're given some tasks to do. Maybe you're looking for some videos, all kinds of things. And these tasks are distributed to others in the group. Successful events are because of that. There's not one coordinator because everybody collaborates. And I think that as we all try out these techniques, we will get better and better at it. I was thinking also about the actual selection of videos for practice sessions. As Beth mentioned, I'm a teacher by profession, and I like to think that I teach for success, not to try to trick my students with unusual or very difficult materials. So when you're choosing, or you have someone choose videos for the practice sessions, I would have a range. Ones that are easy to call, especially as you're getting going and you're warming up, maybe you're using the system for the first time. And then gradually, as the mechanics of using the system become more familiar, more difficult programs that might have several reviews or hard to call elements. Beth said to me yesterday, that would be like day 3 in Frankfurt, those kinds of things that we are asked to call. And it might be a good idea to have a bank of videos and the planned program sheets with all of the elements timed that you can draw on. So build a collection of them so that you're not starting from scratch with every single event that you set up. Thinking about these things ahead of time during your preparations means that everyone can have fun, and we certainly do when we're doing this, and be successful. Back to you, Beth.
Well, thanks very much, Sally. Yes, teaching for success is certainly an important thing for all of us to remember. And I know any seminar or practice session that I've attended with you, that's front and foremost, or in the goals for the session. So thanks very much for your tips. And I think, Chris, do you have one more slide? Or I think maybe we have a few more questions. Sally or Elena, did any more questions come in to either of you?
Nothing here on
Nope.
Yeah, I'm looking at the YouTube, so I would certainly invite people watching on YouTube to put questions in the chat, and I'll bring them over to the main room.
Yeah, here on Zoom, we have a comment that says, great, this looks easy from you. And a question that asks if the ISU will have a library of videos available.
And I think I may be able to not exactly have an answer yet, but it's definitely that is something that is being looked into. In fact, I have a Post-it on my wall here that says videos ISU. So it's certainly something that is being looked at, and we will bring that question forward, and hopefully there will be a bank of videos. In the meantime, for the sessions that I've been participating in, we've used videos from, you could use videos from domestic events that you've had, and sometimes other people who are part of your practice, if you are doing it in more of a global situation, they may also be able to have videos. Of course, we get people the permission before we are sharing these videos, but people have had permission and then shared some videos with us. So that's one way to do it, but it's definitely something we've talked about, to have a bank of videos that can be shared, and we can all use them in different ways, whether it be for technical panel practice. The same videos can be used for something on GOE for elements. So yeah, we're looking into it. So thanks for that question. Do you have any more, Sally, that have come in? Any questions?
No.
Okay, well, good then. So first of all, I should mention about questions. If you have any questions that were answered today, or any that come up in the future, you can see the email at the bottom of your screen, and that's where you send the questions, and they arrive to Elena, and Elena either answers them or she will send them out to someone who knows the answer or can find out the answer. So please make use of that email that you see at the bottom of your screen. So our next session, you can see, is going to be how to use the Toolkit online scoring system. And the online scoring system can be used for various events, such as trial judging or monitoring session, or in some of your domestic events. So if you would like to learn a little bit more about it, please come and join us for our next session, which is next week. And the date and time may be a little changed, so please make sure you're checking that before signing on to our Zoom session. So I'd really like to thank our guests that came today, Juliana and Cecilia, for joining us and sharing their comments. I can't really call Sally Rahoric a guest because she's such an integral part of the toolkit, but I would like to thank Sally for all her work and joining us today with her comments. And especially to Chris Stokes, because Chris started off with what you see on the virtual events toolkit, and we have made a lot of progress since then, and that is due in great part to all Chris's work for updating the toolkit. And I know the session he presented today will be updated and put on the toolkit very soon. So I'd like to thank everyone who tuned in today on Zoom or on YouTube. And we hope to see you again all very soon. So bye for today.